We are off to the next session. And this session is titled Our Story. And in this session, we have Mr. Ajith Issac. Sir, could we have you on stage, please? We'll start with a small video that Sir would like to show us, and then over to the session. Welcome, sir. Thanks for making it.
Good afternoon to all of you, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. I want the slide changer. It's about now 16 years since I've become an entrepreneur across two companies that we built. A company called People One Consulting, which was sold to Adecco, and then Quess today. In 16 years, I've been used to meeting HR managers. Usually on the other side, not more than 2 or 3 at a time. The first time I'm encountering more than 200 in a room, so I can't say it's intimidating, but I can see a lot of friendly faces here today. Quess has grown over the last 6 years through a series of acquisitions. So the theme that was given to me was about how we've grown through this series of acquisitions and how it's played out over time. So I like to refresh you through some of the work that we've done and how it's happened. So why did we go down an acquisition route? The first thing is that the year was 2009, and it was the year we were just coming out of the global financial crisis. There was the Lehman Brothers bust up. All discretionary expenses in companies were under scrutiny. Training, human resources, marketing and communication, anything that was discretionary to management was suspect whether the management would actually spend on it. That was a time when I had an opportunity to invest into Quess Corp and buy almost half the company. So we built the company up from scratch then. But it also occurred then that what organizations wanted today was not staff augmentation as is conventionally known. People wanted workforce management. They wanted the work that was conducted by the people that you were sending on site to be supervised and managed by representatives from your office. So that was then we realized that the deputation basis of work, where you're sending people to work on site to a client space, and where you don't take supervision for their activities is not really the way to go. And then we decided we'll do these acquisitions. So what we had initially was the people business. The people business, which was recruitment, staffing, and everything else that comes with it. To that, the first layer we added was actually technology staffing. We invested in a company called Magna Infotech. Magna Infotech is today India's largest tech staffing company. It enjoyed a leadership position even when we bought it. It had a terrific management team. Around the time we bought it, the company was doing sales of about 180 crores and had about 4,500 people. Today, 6 years down the line, this business is today about 10,000 people and has sales of close to about 550 to 600 crores. So it's grown from 180 to about 550, 600 in the last 5 years. So the point I'm making here is the growth that happened in the company came with the original people that we had. It didn't need fresh infusion of talent or management again. The second business that we entered into was a company in the facility space, Avon Facility Management, after which we've done a series of acquisitions in the facility space. We went out and bought a company called Aramark. Aramark's Indian business, actually. Aramark's is an NYSE-listed company, an American multinational. We bought their business of approximately 4,000 people, and recently, as many of you would have read, we bought the business of Manipal in their facility space, which is another 17,000 people. So together we have right now almost about 30,000 people working in the facilities management space, making this a market leader. But this gave us entry into organizations to manage large spaces of office space, airports, hospitals, educational institutions, etc. So human resources went one step further. We hired people, we placed them at client side, we also managed their work. And this fitted in very much within our strategy of building a workforce augmentation company. This company, I think, will grow fairly dramatically because it will grow on the back of work moving from the unstructured, unregulated, unorganized sector into a regulated, organized structure. It will also move because of consolidation. You want one vendor to do a lot of things. It will also move because of the issue of compliances and GST. With GST coming in, you get a set-off for the service tax that you'll pay, and therefore, it enhances your profitability to be in the value chain of goods and services tax. As a result of which, organized sector players like us will stand to benefit in the process. So that is the second area that we got into. The third is an interesting one, and one which many of you will wonder why it happened and how it happened. We bought a company called Hoffenkonz in Chennai. Hoffenkonz was previously owned by Transfield of Australia, and before that by Tyco in the United States. Hoffenkonz is India's largest operations and management company in physical infrastructure, which means it maintains large industrial equipment, power plants, steel plants, etc. So company employs about 4,500 people. In Hoffenkonz, we manage close to almost about 20 million tons of steel production across plants that we're engaged with, almost about 3 million tons of non-ferrous metals, and about 1,300 megawatts of energy that we produce. So this company is the old world, is the old economy. It manages machines. Much as we do technology outsourcing, this company does outsourcing in the physical infrastructure space of machines and mechanical equipment. One of the things that we also wanted to do was to build a global company, a company that went across barriers from India into other geographies. So this resulted in us acquiring a company called Comtel in Singapore recently. Comtel is Singapore's largest IT staffing company. It has about 1,500 people, does revenues of approximately about $100 million, and clearly is number one by far in the Singapore market. We also did a couple of acquisitions in North America, a company called Brain Hunter, which was at one time a top 5 staffing company in Canada, and another product company in New York called MFX. So together in North America, we have about 600 people working there. So the sum total of all this, which I just mentioned, is a company today that has revenues on a run rate basis of close to $1 billion. We generate employment for almost about 170,000 people. We are present in about 8 countries, and happy to note that we perhaps will be India's first multinational HR services company with operations in other countries. We have right now, thank you. We have right now about 2,000 odd people working in locations outside India. On a combined basis, we have an EBITDA of almost about 200 crores right now on a run rate basis, and we're hopeful that we can grow this with further acquisitions. So the company's gone through a series of 13 acquisitions which has built this. And in each of the acquisitions, the key issue has been the commercials that we've dealt with, the people that we backed, and of course the culture that we invested into the company. When we were doing the roadshows, we recently listed incidentally, and through the listing process, one of the questions that was frequently asked is what keeps me awake in the night. Every time somebody asked me the question, I would tell them it's whether our culture there would be a diminution of our culture because of the number of acquisitions we do. If there's one thing that drives organizations today, be it Quess, be it any other company in whichever industry it performs, it's actually the culture that you build. And culture comes from founders. Culture comes from management team at the top. It is a top-down thing how you create culture. Unless you have culture that influences performance, influences behavior, and therefore influences results, I think you'll be always with your back to the wall. I want to go back one slide and tell you about what drives our acquisitions. When we look at an asset, why do we make the investment or why do we don't make the investment? The first thing is that we look at assets that are ROC accretive, which when we invest, our return on capital only goes up with the new investment we make and is not depletive by any nature. The second one is we look at businesses that can grow at 4x of GDP growth. So anybody wants to hazard a guess on what would be GDP growth today, especially after demonetization? 5%. So my guess is you're half an economist because you've got the number almost right. Yeah, I guess it should be closer to 5.5%. So if we're looking at an acquisition target today, we will look at a company that's capable of growing at least at 4 times GDP growth rate, which means at about 20%. The third thing is that we will not bet our entire future from Quess on any one single investment. So we won't go out and, let's say, buy $1 billion company tomorrow and then put our entire past at risk. So we like incremental acquisitions. The largest acquisition we've done is about $100 million. This year, the entire investment outlay for acquisitions is almost about 1,000 crores. So in 6 months, we're actually spending about 1,000 crores in buying new assets. And I don't think we will make larger ticket numbers than that. And the last one is very important to us, and that's also aligned to our culture and how we run our business. We like to back good people. We never do a hostile transaction. We like to do friendly deals, and every time we have a business that we know is ripe for acquisition, because sometimes a father creates a business, the son is not there, he's moving on to live in the United States, doesn't want to continue running the business, he wants to sell it and encash his investment. Alternatively, there could be investments you can make where multinationals are going away from a specific country. So we've done 3-4 such acquisitions. We've bought Randstad's business in Sri Lanka. We bought Transfield's business in India, and similarly Aramark's business in India. Multinationals always run tight ships, very tight on compliance, so we're happy to look at these investments. So that's the summary of what we've done. And with some pride, we can tell you that as a human resources company, we went public in July this year. We were oversubscribed about 145 times. So it's finally a HR company that went public in India that had the largest oversubscription in India, which I think is in tune with the theme of this conference, where entrepreneurship is a much talked about idea. I want to encourage as many people in the room who would want to become entrepreneurs to do so. There's no better time to do it than today in India. And if we can be of any help in this process, we'll be most happy to. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I request Dr. Pallab to please come on stage and give Mr. Ajith Issac a memento from our side. We also have the slide up.